everybody. Welcome back to the Comedy Castle podcast. I'm Joel Fragomeni. I'm your host. Good to be back here on the Comedy Castle podcast. I had a little time away, was honeymooning, and having a real good time. But it's good to be back. I'm excited about everything going on at the Comedy Castle, and we're going to tell you what's going on this week. So let's go to the calendar, shall we? Let's start with this evening, the 25th of March. That's a Tuesday. The 101 Comedy Class Showcase starts with us. 7:30 p.m. is the time for that. That's seeing all the beginners, seeing all the people from Bill Bouchard's excellent comedy class. 7:30 p.m. is the start time for that. We got open mic night tomorrow night, Wednesday night, the 26th of March at 7:30 p.m. It's just $5. Show up, buy your ticket, and watch open mic night. It's always a fun mix of amateurs, professionals, some people doing it for the first time, some veterans just working on new stuff. You never know who's going to pop into open mic night. It's always a good time. That's at 7:30. And John Caparulo returns. Big week for us. John is one of the all-time headliners. I'll talk more about John in a second here, but one of the all-time headliners at the club, always rocks the mic. Chelsea Lately. I guess I'm just talking about him now. Chelsea Lately, The Tonight Show, the Wild West Comedy Show. You'll hear me talk to Matt Lauria. He's the opener this week. We'll talk. We talked a little bit about John's career and where he's been. I know he just had a Vegas residency. Hasn't been at the club for a long time, so it's really great to have John Caparulo back with us for 5 shows, starting on Thursday night, the 27th at 7:30 p.m., 7:15 and 9:45 are your show times on Friday the 28th, and then Saturday the 29th, 7 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Again, a little bit earlier every night. A little bit earlier every night. Comedy Castle. Get your tickets. Go on comedycastle.com. And again, great lineup. Not just do you have John Caparulo, who, as you'll hear in this interview, Matt Lauria says, hey, bring your wife, bring your grandma, bring anybody who thinks, who maybe goes, I don't really know if comedy's funny. There will love John Caparulo. He's super great. And the opener, we've got Matt Lauria as the feature. He's our guest. We'll talk about Matt in a second. And Heather Van Galloway, I believe, is making her weekend emceeing debut. Heather was a student of mine just a couple years ago, and she's delightful. So great lineup. Heather, Matt Lauria, and John Caparulo. 5 chances to see this one, and you should show up. I really think this is going to be one of the better shows of the year based on that lineup and talking to Matt here today. And we've had great lineups. I mean, Matt McCusker last week. I mean, come on. That dude sold pretty much every single ticket for 6 shows. 2 Thursday night shows, 2 Friday shows, 2 Saturday shows. Tremendous weekend for Matt. People know him from Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, of course, with Shane Gillis. And the fans were out. I want to thank everyone who came. A lot of people telling us we hadn't been to the Comedy Castle before, but you came out and saw Matt. And keep coming back. Lots of great shows, including this weekend with John. And his feature, Matt Lauria. Now, Matt's the guy I ended up talking to. We couldn't make that connection with John this week. But Matt is a guy who I was not aware of. He's been a Michigan comic for 18 years. He started performing in the Kalamazoo area and then ended up doing the West Coast scene, which is really centered around Grand Rapids. We'll talk a lot about Grand Rapids. We'll talk about his persona. Yes, Matt will tell you I'm a douchebag. He says it right in the act. It's very funny, and he has some jokes related to it, but he is so charming. You can't laugh at the guy. He'll tell you about doing broga, which I thought was a funny bit. I watched some of him on YouTube the other day. He's a hip-hop fan. You'll hear me talk a lot about hip-hop. The Gathering of the Juggalos, as far as I know. I'm not Mr. Hip-Hop. I explained that. Jason Jamerson tried to tell me about Drake and the other guy. Yeah, see, that's how much I know about hip-hop. What a day. But anyway, he tried to tell me about rap beefs. I don't know what he's talking about, but you'll know. Well, when you're done hearing me talk, everything I know about hip-hop is on this show. It's about 30 seconds worth of stuff, but I do work the Gathering of the Juggalos. I should know. And Matt's going to tell you about pickleball. I don't know about pickleball, but he brought up something about pickleball. Why are people building pickleball courts? It may not be for the reason you think. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed Matt. You know, it's a guy that is on the Michigan scene that I didn't know. And when I did my research, I go, I think this guy's onto something. I like what he's doing. He'll probably be headlining soon. That's my prediction, Matt. No pressure. If you're listening to this, I think he'll be headlining soon. But anyway, he's featuring this week with John Caparulo. It's going to be a great week. Also, let me plug this before we get into the interview. Advanced Comedy Class. This is the week for it. We're back for another edition of the Advanced Comedy Class. It starts this Saturday, the 29th. Saturdays for 6 weeks. We'll have a week off for Memorial Day and a big showcase in May. It's going to be great. I love teaching the Advanced Comedy Class. So many students like Heather, who's our MC this week, and so many people that have come through the club throughout the years have done it. I've been doing it for over 10 years now, and I really enjoy it. There is still, as of this recording, still some space available. If you want to be part of my Advanced Comedy Class, meaning you've done the beginner class at the club or you have a little bit of experience, call the Comedy Castle at 248-542-9900. They'd be happy to sign you up, and I would be happy to be your teacher through your journey through comedy. I will guide you and help you and see how good you can get. And can you be successful? Can you make it to the weekend? A lot of my students are doing that. Some of my students are headlining. It's really an exciting time in comedy. So let's just throw it over to Matt. Let's throw it over to what he's doing. You'll hear me talk about the dog I adopted a little bit with a little dog talk. I just got a brand new one to join Baxter in my canine brood here. Little Cleo. She's a cutie pie. And, I talk a little bit. I got married, had a great honeymoon. Thanks to everybody who liked those photos and that update in my life. It's really been a great month of March for me, getting married, going on a honeymoon, getting a new dog, and making a new friend in Matt. I made a new friend. Isn't that nice? How many guys my age can say they made a new friend? I think we did. Here's Matt Laurie, everybody. I'll be back after. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other end of my line, it's a pleasure to talk to Matt Laurie. Welcome to the Comedy Castle podcast, Matt.
Oh, what up, Joel? It is an honor to be on the Comedy Castle podcast and to be joining the illustrious comedy club here this weekend.
Yeah, man, it's going to be great. Now, is this your first appearance at the Comedy Castle?
Not my first appearance, first full weekend. I've done featuring sets on like a one-night show where headliners coming through town and guest sets from everyone from Mark and it seems like every booker there from Bill to everyone else as well too.
Well, then you're overdue to actually be on the weekend. It should be a great weekend. John Caparulo is one of the best.
Absolutely. And, true comic and comics comic as well too. So I'm looking damn forward to it.
Should be a great time. So let's talk, man. I feel like maybe even if we've been in the same room together, I was unaware when I went into this deep dive into you that I did to try to get a feel for the interview here. How long you been doing comedy?
I've been doing it 18 whole years at this point in time. So,
man.
So we've probably been in the same room together. I just try to avoid you because you all say all these racial slurs all the time. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be by him. So Matt, I know.
It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, Matt. I'm not sure how much of this I'll use, but no, that's cool though. No, because it's great. And when I watch your stuff, I'm like, oh, this guy's super funny. I feel like if I saw you, because that's the thing. I feel like if I had seen you in a room, I would have been like, oh, this guy's real funny. I would have had a chat with him. And, granted, I meet hundreds of comics working at the club, but still, that's a credit.
It's an honor. It's an honor coming from you, Joel. And that makes it more of an honor because you do see hundreds of comics and stuff. And I just got to be better about content. That's what it feels like these days.
It kind of is. Out there. Yeah, it kind of is, man. And it's, you got to tape. Listen, I got out of the game before it really was a social media thing. I haven't been on the road in about a dozen years, but tape every show. The best moments from that show, especially if they're spontaneous, those get put on the Instagram. The main show, the material, you just drip that out. You don't give the whole show away, but you give away these improvisational moments.
With just the tip, man. Make them want it more. Make them desire it. Make them, bite a bottom lip, whatever you need. And that's what all this social media is about. No, that's what showing my 18 years in the game is that back in the day, that's what it was, like basically give a booker a DVD or things of that nature. And now it's like content, 36 at a time. And, We're good. I'm for it. And you know what? A good weekend to get some good content.
It should be
March 27th through the 29th at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, Royal Oak, Michigan, folks.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So let's get into some other stuff here. Grand Rapids, is that where you've been doing comedy, that side of the state there?
Yep, that's where I live. That's where it started here. I actually started in Kalamazoo. I was fortunate. Western Michigan at that point had like a last Bronco standing.
Okay.
So started with that. Won it. Had an ego like you wouldn't believe. Then went to an actual comedy club. I went to an actual comedy club and just ate it for months. But it was fortunate starting at Kalamazoo that time because there was a comedy club called The Laughing Post that just opened, and they had another facility in Orland Park, Illinois, so just outside Chicago. It was called Giggles, or no, Riddles. And they would funnel a lot of talent over from there into this little town of Kalamazoo, and frankly had no one to host, no one to guest set. They would get some features, so I got a lot of opportunities that I shouldn't have gotten early on that my material showed it at that point, but it was brilliant. I mean, I got to work with Bill Burr for a weekend. I got to work with Patrice O'Neill, Robert Kelly. God, they had everyone from Lynn Koplitz to it was unbelievable. The list continues to go on, and Tracy Morgan. But it was fun to host at that point and really not know what you're doing, but then still get that addiction because frankly they had no one else to host at that point. So.
Yeah, you're the guy. That's small scene. You should be able to get, as long as you have a place that you can do it. That's really a great situation to have a big club, not a lot of local talent, people willing to work for free or for very little money. That's when you get that. That's when you can really get that stage time, and that makes you better. And there's no. I always say there's no, replacement for stage time.
No, not at all.
You can't do it in the mirror, and you can sit there and you can write, and that's great. And we all want you to write, but you got to get up in front of people. You got to get on there. Even if you can't find open mics and such, grab a karaoke mic and just say, "No, I'm not singing Love Shack. Here's 3 minutes on airplane food." Now, the Grand Rapids scene, when I was coming up, that was the big thing with the Funny Business Agency and Dr. Grins. Did they help you out? Did they take a shine to you?
They did. They took a shine, and they took a lot of my money too. No, I love the Yoders and such. They did. It was fun because that's the beauty of, again, 18 years. It sounds like a ridiculously time, but you had to show and prove for many weeks. And even after many weeks, it became many months. And then after many months, they finally gave me an opportunity to maybe host on a guest hosting weekend when Stu was out of town or something of that nature.
Stu put me out of business at that club in a lot of ways because I'd be a rotating MC. I'd be there every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And then when Stu showed up, there's Stu McAllister we're referring to. They were like, "We're going to have Stu do it every week." And I was like, I guess I'm not coming back, huh? And, they brought me back to feature, but it was once in a blue moon, and it just kind of, But, that was the thing. You could host that club, and they'd put you up, and you get to hang out and do a whole bunch of shows with the headliner and drive the headliner around and stuff because, they didn't have a car, and I was driving up from Detroit doing that thing. It was we had a good time. It'd be a wedding across the hall doing comedy.
Which is always good. That's what you want. You want to do comedy at Grins and have, again, another reference to Love Shack bleed through the walls of your comedy set, especially when you're setting up a premise. The really thing that you want to hear is bang, bang, bang on the floor, baby. So it's a good setup. I mean, honestly, for a lot of clubs, the cool thing, I had a great comedy class between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, like the likes of Adam Deggy, Alan True, Stu McAllister, Trevor Smith. All these guys are still working comics here today.
They've pretty much all been on this show, I think, too. So
good, great. Well, finally, you had me, Joel. I see how it is, man.
About time. I called Deggy. He goes, "Nah." And I go, "Okay, we'll get." No, I'm kidding.
That's all it takes.
Deggy's maybe between Deggy and Dave Dyer, a couple of West Side guys. Maybe the most appearances on the show ever are those two guys. That's who you're chasing.
You got to get a bigger audience, and those are the two hacks you're having on all the time.
Caparulo didn't. Anyway, let's move on. So you got started. What were you doing? You started comedy. What's been the day job? What's keeping you moving? Because comedy, you hope we all want to get to that point where we can live on comedy money, but you got to do something.
You mean to tell me that by featuring Weekend at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle is not going to pay my bills for 2025? What in the hell?
If you got a great T-shirt, maybe you got some
maybe, yeah.
Get some great merch, dude.
If I have a hacky enough T-shirt, that's what you need to say. So there you go. I work in sales for a food ingredient distributor, which is like it's unique because you got to make it to a lot of areas a lot of the time. So it's good because during the day I wear a sport jacket and tie and have meetings and stuff. And then at night I put on denim and tell dick jokes at mics and stuff in and around the town. So it's been cool. I've been able to do guest sets in showcase sets at the likes of Hilarities in Cleveland to be able to get feature weekends there. And then same thing for Go Bananas in Cincinnati. So Comedy Cafe in Milwaukee previously and things of that nature, just my territory. So when I go through those areas on a Wednesday, Thursday, that's usually when they're able to have all right, let's see what this kid's got. And so it's been fun because back when those privately owned clubs like that here of Mark Ridley's and such, you got to do the showcase. And that's how I originally showcased for Mark that I was in town just working a weekend or see customers and stuff, and then got to be able to do showcase and then, get a full weekend out of it in the future. Stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And so you had that sales, because I always find as a comedy teacher myself, people that have a sales background, people that sort of talk in their day job really can take to stand-up comedy and really make, really be great communicators.
Yeah, you're just an attention whore by day and by night. So that's really kind of what it comes down to. It does help. I actually think comedy lended towards better for sales because, like I mentioned, I started in comedy when I was a junior in high school or college. Yeah. So when then that happened, the transition over to it, and there's few and far between any customers I would tell them. Maybe that's part of the reason I don't have enough content on the interwebs is because I don't want too many customers seeing it. But at the same time, when they come out, the transition, I'm going to have some customers in and around Detroit come to the shows this weekend, and they're customers for life when they make it to
that's great.
A show.
Yeah.
So,
sales guys are great. And then just reading about this stuff. I mean, let's talk about your life. I mean, the set I watched of you is this Single Man from Sunday Night Funnies. I watched it from there.
Oh God!
I know. Well, look, I get it. I'm a comic. I get that. That's maybe not the most prestigious gig, but you're really funny on that. But now I see on your Instagram, you're married, you're a father. Congratulations on all of those things.
Appreciate you, Joe. Yeah, man. It's we did it all for the material. I didn't want anything to do with it, but I ran out of jokes about being 30-something and single, so I decided put some jewelry on my left hand and shoot out some XY chromosomes.
There you go.
So,
well, congrats, because you do reach a point now. And believe me, I'm 52, and I still perform here and there, and I'm doing jokes that I've been married. I'm still doing jokes about it being a single guy. I gotta get rid of some of those.
So they're tried and true bits, man. You got to.
They're funny,
keep them on the shelf. No, it's been great. It really changes obviously a lot of the material and such as well too. Is not only that, it's something that I feel like more people gravitate towards. As I see my audience is I'm about to turn 40 here this year, and even just telling some of that material and such now, I feel like it's you get more excited as every comedian does when they have a new 2 minutes or 5 minutes that works about their life, as opposed to being so I met this gluten-free yoga instructor, and you're you're already exhausted with the joke, even though you still got 3.5 more minutes to tell it. So
because I one of the bits I liked, I hope you still do this one, was the Broga bit. I thought that was very funny.
I appreciate that. I will do that. I do it every once in a while because I think that my persona gives off the idea of, what can this guy that looks like he was dressed out of a Target ad, tell me that's funny. And so I like to at least tell them, I get it. I look like a douche, but give me a shot.
That's great too, to just walk out, and you did that in this set from, years ago now, but you just walk on, I know I'm a douchebag, but I'm not that big of a douchebag. That was, the guy practicing his golf swing. We got a guy like that at the club. And he's a very nice guy, but our ticket guy, Andrew. But he's walking around the showroom practicing his golf swing.
Oh my God, that is the first ticket. I can see the white Oakley sunglasses on the back of his head as he practices that golf swing.
Yeah,
right now. So that's
make sure to say hi to Andrew if you get a chance. I'll point him out
I
for
will.
you.
I'll tell
I'll
him.
point
Joel
him out
sent
for
me.
you. Say, hey, this guy he says you're a douche for practicing your golf swing. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Though. I don't. But when you know people, you know them. But when you see a guy doing that and you don't know who they are, you're like, oh, what an ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. And then hearing in that set, hip hop aficionado.
I am.
Yeah.
I will bleed that to the day I die.
Right.
I'd like to challenge anyone in and around Detroit to any hip hop because it has amazing scene for hip hop. I know all Detroit's history,
Yeah.
New York's, LA's, the South, and you never get it from, again, a white dude stepping out of a Target ad. But I will add, I'm Sicilian.
Yeah.
And somehow that always gravitates towards hip hop.
Well, hip hop's not a thing that. Well, like I ended up like working with. It's a long story, but I ended up working with Insane Clown Posse, and I still do.
Wow.
So I've met at the Gathering of the Juggalos. I've met a lot of hip hop legends over the years.
That's incredible. How many? Can you still drink Fago? Or do you hate it
I'm very happy to be. I will tell you that I drove home from Ohio covered in Fago last summer.
God, that should. If you want to talk about merch that'll sell, if you put that on a bumper sticker, I drove home from Ohio covered in Fago last summer.
So I've sort of came, I guess, to hip hop a little bit later because I was kind of, I was sort of there at the, I was born in 72, so. It was like, in the early 80s, I was like in grade school.
Sure.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, The Message. Like, I remember that and, Run DMC and all of those sort of novelty songs, Roxanne, and...
You see, you got your history.
The Cars That Go Boom. I know some stuff.
Yeah, but, dust your shoulders off.
But then I don't know anything about contemporary hip-hop because last summer when it was at its height, I had Jason Jamerson on this show, the guy, Detroit comic, hilarious dude. And I said, please explain Kendrick Lamar and Drake's beef to me. And he described it probably as well as anyone could, and I still don't know what the hell's going on.
Dude, when Kendrick did the Super Bowl here, I'd explained it to so many of my white cousins and family members and such, and it felt like I could literally get a masterclass ticket on it as well, too. So it's been fun to actually explain it to people, but, you got some knowledge. I mean, that's the ground floor of pioneers.
But if you don't follow it, then how do you know? You know what I mean? Like,
you just stay in it. And even now, like, it's very tough to, you were born a year after hip hop is quote unquote born. So it's beautiful in that sense. But I mean, Detroit's such a legend for so much of it. And it still is. Like, I mean, they just named Jay Dilla is an amazing producer that has transcended hip hop in general, just to other music. He made us nerd out with me for a second here. He made he made a different type of timing when it comes to music. So there's normal timing and then there's swing timing, and he made Dilla timing, which is a blend of the two. And that is magical in terms of like what it's done for the world in terms of hip hop and stuff. And so they named a street after him this year. There's Jay Dilla Boulevard here now in Detroit. So it's beautiful every time to be in that city, to go through some of the history, and it's still going, man. Detroit is still producing artists. So.
Well, I can tell you, not to brag, but I met and worked with Detroit legend Esham. I have worked with
Murder Rap.
Awesome Dre and I are friendly, and some of these old school Detroit guys. Because Violent J of ICP is a big old school fan, and he grew up on those guys, and they all come through the gathering. Even like Bismarck Key and some of these old, Rob Bass and these guys will come through and do that stuff too.
Bismarck Key was the first person to make like funny being cool in hip hop. Like, he wasn't trying to be sexy. He was just funny, and he made it to be cool and sexy. So it was unbelievable. And it's funny you mentioned Esham, like all that I don't, ICP is more like comedy to me. It's not, it's funny, but at the same time, you just be around all that. And then they created this segment of like murder, hip hop, where it's all like horrorcore. So it's very funny. So man, that's well, look at that, man. You got your stripes on you.
You look at me and you go, who this guy is, what he knows. It's like, I know stuff.
Just
I know
like
a thing or two. I know a little bit.
Let's go.
I know a little bit. And I enjoy all, and it's so funny because, thinking, well, like, boy, you work with the St. Clown Posse. What's that like? And I go, I enjoy it. They're funny dudes, you know.
Why not?
They like what I do, and that's great. You know, they liked me, and I said, okay, let's, you know. I went out to do. So here's the original story of me working for ICP is they said we need a guy to be a clown. We need a guy to be Upchuck the Clown because the guy that was doing Upchuck the Clown, he can't do it no more with his day job. And they called, Comedy Club. My friend didn't want it. He asked me to do it. I showed up and did it as a goof. Because I asked one of my friends, I said, my comedy friends, I said, should I do it? He goes, you're going to get a good story. Just go do it. You'll have a bit for the rest of your life. This was 23 years ago now.
Look at that, man. Is the gathering still going on?
Yeah, we do it in Ohio usually. Yeah, right outside Columbus.
Oh, God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And like I said, I was planning on driving home, and it's like, do I want to do the Faygo Armageddon at the end of the show? And I'm standing at the side of the stage, and I go, yeah, let's do it. And then I just never dried, and I was covered in red pop.
Oh, well, you know what? That's legendary status. You can never have that anywhere else but an ICP show.
All right. Enough about me. Let's get back to you. Tell me about as a young man, and you are still a young man who plays pickleball. Tell me all about that.
Oh, it's the greatest way to combine everyone that has a Medicare gym membership, people that should wear a towel in the steam room, and then the size of a badminton court all in one, and put it together in a magical way. I've been around it. It feels like from like the origin days where it wasn't a punchline or like necessarily well known. Like I remember having to explain the sport to people, like nobody had heard of it. And then now to the point where so many people have heard about it, it's been really fucking annoying at this point. So if I had monetized my way into that world right now, if I could have figured it out, I would not be selling stuff by the day. I would just be telling jokes on pickleball courts at night. Yeah. So
it's big, and in Detroit they're opening these facilities that are strictly for pickleball. They're not, they're not even making tennis courts and adapting them. They are the pickleball courts.
It's insane, and it's a real estate thing. If you can fit 3 pickleball courts,
man, look at that,
on one tennis court, and you know it's going to be filled, then that's really what happens. And it's funny shit because they're building them all over the country. I mean, they just built another one over here and all this. And, you used to have to educate people, not only what it was, but now it's getting to the point that it's like, it's becoming people's whole identification. That's how they literally identify themselves as, and they commit a lot of adultery because of pickleball. So it's just, it's wild.
How does adultery happen via pickleball?
I got a hypothesis, and I think that people hung out with their same friend groups, and they hang out with the same people they know. And then they discover this little game that has always, like, every place that opens it in a park or whatever, it has upwards of at least 6 courts, and some of them even have more. And then you hang around these 6 courts for long enough, and you start to meet more people and more people and more people. And then they start to, instead of wanting to go out or doing anything normal, they just want to go to pickleball courts. And then here comes this new group of people. And so I've not seen as many people go to the emergency room or a physical therapist as many as I've seen people actually go to a marriage therapist or a divorce attorney.
All right.
So it's got its own segment. So you just got married, right?
I did just get married. Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
Stay the fuck away from pickleball. That's all I can say.
I don't see us playing pickleball anytime soon. We were, believe me, I was in Jamaica trying not to hurt myself. That's what I was doing for the last week. I wasn't on doing this show. I was like, yeah, dude, you want to climb up this waterfall? I think I'm good.
It's beautiful from here.
Yeah, it's right. It's great. I'll just stay here at the bottom of it. It's fine.
You're to stay away from pickleball. Happy belated wedding day to you.
Thank you, dude. It's really been terrific, and I don't know. My wife's great. Just adopted a new dog with her. I got 2 little dogs here, so who knows?
Gotta love it.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of dogs?
Well, the new one's a little Shih Tzu. She's a 10-pound Shih Tzu.
Okay.
She's got 1 blue eye, 1 brown eye.
Oh, a little Max Scherzer?
Yeah, so she's got that going on, and she's a little feisty. And then I got a Yorkie Poo that's about 4 years old, and he's about 20 pounds, and he's been chilling with us for over a year, but he's a little skeptical of this new one because she's got lots of energy.
That's it's any old dog. Yeah. Well, I always say, all right, what is this? I share that with you. We have a Pomeranian Chihuahua.
Okay, yeah. That's an energy.
there's no masculine way to say that. Just that
That's all right.
you own a Pomchi. Like I think my friends would have more respect for me if they caught me at a truck rest stop sharing a trucker shower with a guy named Earl than if they caught me walking a Pomchi down the road. But I originally was suspect. So when I met that dog, he was 2 when my wife had him, and now he's almost 12.
Okay.
It was that might be my best friend in the world at this point. Like
That's
that dude.
great.
In breaking the norm of like small dogs, like we bring him to the dog park and you bring him in that little dog area and he's just like, what's this bullshit?
Yeah.
You know, bring me in the big. I'm 12. I can hang. I can watch R-rated movies, Dad. You know, we're fine.
Yeah, my I haven't taken the Shih Tzu to the dog park yet, but the Yorkie Poo, he goes in with the pit bulls at the dog park.
Look at that.
He just goes in, and the pit bulls are friendly, you know. And then if one growls, he runs the other way, or whatever. Or he's not going to get eaten anytime soon.
That Yorkie Poo says, if my dad can go to the gathering of the Juggalos,
that's what it is.
I can go to some big dog pit bull park.
That's a great analogy.
That's why I'm here.
I am a Yorkie Poo amongst the pit bulls at the gathering.
There you look at that. There's a new album title for you.
Matt, we gotta. I'm loving this conversation. I'm also sad that we haven't connected like this beforehand.
Well, it's the beginning. What's today's date? March 25th. It's
March
the beginning
25.
of a new whole thing.
That's
I like
dude.
it.
This is great. This is fantastic. I can't wait for you to I'm going to be there every night this week. So it's going to be a great time. Tell us what else you got going on in comedy. You said you got a monthly show that you can tell everybody about that. But if they can't make Comedy Castle, maybe you don't live in Detroit or you're busy this weekend, you can go see Matt over there. Tell them about that one.
Yeah, frankly, everything stand-up comedy right now is in one of the better booms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you've been around it since then, right? You see all the different booms.
I started in '99. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
See, and then you start to see the resurgence and all this. It's been beautiful, and so I'm getting tired of seeing all my friends start these successful rooms, and then me sitting over here being like, "Can I get another date? Can I get another date?"
Yeah.
So we actually we're starting our first show here this March. It's going to be the last Tuesday of every month. It's at a place called the Night Watch Lounge.
Okay.
The best way I can describe it, it's a speakeasy that is on the second floor of an apartment complex that is like, when you get in there, it's almost like Sinatra meets Dangerfields meets the biggest craft cocktail list you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate. My neighbor owns the place, and he's always a fan of stand-up. We've been talking about it. He's come to see me a bunch of times. He's like, how are we going to get a night that works? How are we going to get a night that works? And so we've done it really cool where we are doing the last Tuesday of every month. It's like a showcase kind of where you get 3 comics doing like 15 minutes. And then myself, I host it. And then a closing comic that does like 20, 25. But each comic, you get a different drink theme for each show each month. And it feels like a little bit more ritzy. It feels like almost like the scene in Goodfellas where they're sitting there with their gumas at the table the other night. And he's like, take my wife, please take her. I take my wife everywhere. She finds her way home, like that kind of nightclub. You get a tiki little table tent, and you get a cocktail that's got 65 other ingredients, and it's just short of $65. No, it's phenomenal. We're doing it last Tuesday of every month. We're calling it Handsome Boy Modeling School.
Okay.
Comedy night.
All right,
so
sounds like
it's
a
really
blast.
fun.
Yeah, sounds
so
great.
yeah, we've been doing that, and it's just been great all over the place. I mean, it's good to see that stand-up is in its boom, but when you can make it out to comedy clubs like Ridley's, and you see these places that have been doing it for so many years versus even my own show where, you're trying to get it off the ground. It's so fun to just see a true run top like that at Ridley's, where they've not only been doing this for decades and made people out of it, but at the same time, they're still getting people that have never been to a comedy show.
Absolutely. We've had that last weekend. I was talking to people, and they've
I'm gonna
never
have it this
been
week.
out.
It's funny. Some of my customers are like, I can't wait to come see you. I've never been to a live stand-up show. And I'm like, you're 47.
Yeah.
The fuck is your problem, man?
You gotta do it.
Yeah.
But it's only in places, the thing is until recently when, now it feels like every brewery's got a comedy night, right? It was a thing where, maybe your town didn't have a club. Maybe your town didn't have a place to go see comedy like Ridley's or Dr. Grins or something. So you'd have to, now you got shows like yours and these guys who open the weeklies, the monthlies, and people are really digging it. They're loving it.
I love it. And you can think, I mean, it's just so great. That's the thing that drives me crazy is like, people love stand up because they can take it on their phone or they can take it on their
Yeah.
streaming accounts, but it's like you will never get that feeling of that intimacy and that kind of a boom of a laughter when you're in a room and you're watching it. Like, I hate and kind of love that. I'm not even going to mention their names, but a certain comedians got so much success over quote unquote crowd work.
Yeah.
And then they'll, say like, "Oh, crowd work's so great, crowd work's so awesome," and you're like, "Have you never even been to a comedy club? Then how do you even know
How would you know?
what crowd work is?"
Yeah.
And then when you get that personalized experience, because you're sitting 2 tables over from the lady that's on a date with somebody in their 5th marriage, it's there's nothing like that it just will change
that dynamic,
so much.
The dynamic is you can't get that on your phone. It's not on TikTok. You
Oh God, no. That's the beauty of it all. So yeah, it's been really great, especially across the state. It's so fun to see how many these new places and stuff coming up. But it is good to see the original gangsters like that of yourself, but then also still comics that haven't leaned fully into their day job as much as me here yet, and then still working out to be able to have amazing weekends like that at Caparulo. That's what I can't hype him enough.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time.
When I was starting out, a guy named Brett Ernst. You guys have had him at Ridley's before.
Sure, yeah.
Good friend of mine. He, the Comedy Store, we all know it now is like this booming place. Well, back in like the 90s, like that time, like that late 90s, it was a dead zone.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan started going there again, and it started to pick up a little bit and stuff of that nature. But Brett started there at that point, so did Caparulo. And he was working the door and then worked his way up to Comedy Store. And then it boomed back. And so around that time, right when it boomed back, Vince Vaughn created a comedy tour called Vince Vaughn's Wild West Comedy Tour. And he did 30 cities and 30 nights. And he was actually on each one of them. They had a bus and they went along. Well, Brett Ernst was on it. And so was Caparulo. So it was a comedian known, this Persian named Ahmed, who's still working today.
Sure. We know Ahmed. He comes to the club.
Yep. And then Sebastian Maniscalco, which is just like fucking crazy that he was not known. Brett Ernst, who I just mentioned, who's gotten a lot of fame recently because he's a star of Cobra Kai. And then Caparulo was on it as well, too. And full circle from having met and worked with both Brett and Sebastian, and even Ahmed, somehow complete the hat trick plus one is Caparulo. And it's fun. You do a lot of dates with a lot of people. My wife comes to a decent amount of shows, and she's like, "Am I going to like this comic? It's either opening for me or, headlining this and that nature." And it's so amazing to tell everyone, like, Caparulo is such a comedian.
Yeah, he
like,
really is.
Through and through. He's not somebody that got famous off a Barstool.
Yeah.
He's not somebody that got famous because of internet sensation. He got famous because of fucking jokes.
Yeah, he's great.
And
I talk about him in comedy class.
Yeah.
Because he acts stuff out. He's very solid. You don't think of him as physical, but because he doesn't do a lot of physicality, but the stuff that he does is so powerful. He just makes it funnier. Yeah, he's great.
So it's beautiful. Do people have that kind of a weekend where you're set up like this? And, it's amazing to work with like a comic like that as well, too, as opposed to, hey, we got a full weekend for this guy because he's got 2.1 million followers. And he's like, is he funny? And you're like, hey, sure.
Yeah, he'll get there. He'll get there. We'll figure it out. They'll be happy.
I've had a bunch of that where you get a date and then you do a one show with them. And then they're like, oh, this is an actual comedian. Please don't be on the show tomorrow.
Well, dude, it's going to be a great weekend. Thanks so much for talking to me today, Matt. I really had a blast, and it's going to be a pleasure to actually talk to you face to face. And everyone, come see it. Come see John. It's going to be a heck of a show.
I love it. I appreciate your time here today, Joel. Congratulations to you on newly married.
Dude. Yeah.
We're gonna have a badass weekend. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for the time.
If you want to know anything about, I'll tell you about running into Shock G from Digital Underground, and I'll tell you about the rest in peace. I saw Old Dirty Bastard perform at the gathering. I mean, come on now.
Don't perform with Joel. You might die.
Exactly.
And if you can find me on the socials, I'm mostly on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous handle of all time. If you just search for me, Matt Loria, but my handle is Party Girl Chica 420, and it's girl with GURL. It's part of my act. If you see me, you'll get it. If not, your wife will wonder why you're getting DMs from a Party Girl Chica 420. So.
All right, well, we'll link to that, of course, from our Instagram at ComedyCast Podcast. Thanks again, Matt. It was a real treat, dude. Real treat.
Cheers. Good to finally meet you here,
Take
Joel.
care,
At
partner.
least over the phone.
All right, Matt. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. Will I see all 5 shows?
Take care. Yeah, it should be.
All right. I look forward to it, brother.
See you, man. Bye-bye. Thank
See
you. All right, Matt. Great job, man. The dude can talk. But no, I really enjoyed talking to Matt. We'll talk a lot more this weekend. And really, as a character, that's the thing. As a comedian, a successful comedian, you gotta be able to have that persona. He's a sales guy. He talks fast. He's it was great. It was really a fun talk. And I think this weekend with Caparulo and Matt, it's really shaping up to be a real good one. I want to thank everybody for listening to this show. I know people do come up to me at the club and say, thanks for listening. We really enjoy, thanks for the shows. We really enjoy listening to these guys. And yeah, super fun. Great to be back on the podcast. Hopefully we'll have one for you every week going forward. That's the goal. Life got in the way there, but it's really great to be back. Great to be presenting this great comedy for you. Happy to be teaching again the advanced comedy class this weekend. If you want to take a beginner class, Bill Bouchard's got you covered there. He's terrific. So anyway, yeah, let's get out of here. Let's get you ready. Go over to comedycastle.com. Get your tickets for Caparulo, Matt Loria. We'll see you next week, guys. All right? Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.